everyone, it's Mr. Rob here again, and in this video we're going to go over Kiske's best OKI options and tools. So off of different types of hits, you're going to get different types of knockdowns, and we're going to go over all of the best ways he can get consistent and powerful OKI. So the first option we're going to talk about is an OTG close slash into a dash cancel. This is an option you can go for if your opponent is in a hard knockdown right in front of you. So that's off of any kind of 2D you can get a dash up close slash, or if you're in the corner and you get a throw, you can get a close slash dash cancel, or if you ever have the opponent stuck to the wall and you get a tyrant rave, you can choose to not do the follow-up and then get a OTG close slash from that. So this follow-up is good for a number of reasons because there's a number of things you can do after it. But the first and most obvious one is to just do close slash dash cancel into another close slash. So as you can see, Kai is set to wake up with a throw here. And because Sin's close slash has a lot of active frames, it's pretty easy to get a counter hit close slash after you go for something like this. As long as you don't accidentally do it too early, which can sometimes happen after a 2D, but will never happen after a throw. So the first and most obvious option would be to go for a Meaty close slash, because if the opponent is trying to throw, like Kai is here on wake up, you can get a nice juicy counter hit combo. But also, if the opponent chooses to do nothing, you'll be left very plus in their face and able to go for some more strike throw shenanigans, or just general mix-ups into his overhead or low options. Because his close slash recovers so quickly, it can also be used as reversal bait. Which is extremely powerful. And if he wants, he can actually whiff a 2P and go for a throw mix-up, and this will beat blocking opponents and people trying to go for DPs. All in all, this makes for some really scary options, whether in the corner or even mid-screen, where Sin can just go for crazy, plus on block, DP baiting, combo starting, throw beating OKI that is really powerful. So the next option is actually a bit more of an unorthodox one. It's actually using Elk Hunt on OKI to lead to some interesting situations. And the main thing that makes this useful is I mainly use it as a way of bursting throws. Because as you can see, even on a knockdown, the way the move works, it pushes the opponent far enough away that throws whiff, but you're close enough to go for a close slash. So after any knockdown, if you can get this to whiff, you can punish people trying to throw you on wake up if people are pretty trigger happy, especially when you're going for something like this that looks like you're launching yourself at the opponent. People mash throw all the time, so you can beat their throws and go for juicy counter hit combos because they thought they could throw you. You can use this delayed after 2K 2D to bait throws, in a pretty hard baity manner, because it does lose to DPs and mashing, so it's particularly to beat throws. However, this is not where Elk Hunt stops being useful as an OKI tool, as it's actually one of your best options as a OKI tool after you go for your beak driver follow-up. So as you can see here, after I go for beak driver, as long as I'm not in a crazy far distance, Elk Hunt is actually really meaty. So meaty that if it lands as a counter hit, let me go for something that's a little more realistic. Like maybe if they're mashing a crouching button or something to try and beat me out of it. It can hit so late that you can actually get a 2S after the counter hit. Which is definitely not something you can normally do. So going for this is a really cool option, and a lot of time people have trouble holding the opponent down after you go for your beak driver follow-up. So going for this is just a super easy way to make sure the opponent is not jumping, mashing buttons, doing anything, because they're going to get caught out. So it's a good way of making them held down, but do beware, it does lose to DPs, and that's it. Obviously it doesn't lose to throws, because that's what we were just talking about. The next option Sin has is after he gets a throw, he can go for these fake safe jumps where it's actually just a frame kill, where he can go into close slash and it beats out any kind of throws or button mashing or anything, because it makes this completely perfectly timed close slash after any of your throws. So you just do IAD into buttons. That was not an IAD. So it can be a jump heavy slash or a jump slash, and the opponent likely thinks that it's going to be some kind of safe jump, but the overhead just completely whiffs. So this also gives the option of going to IAD into a low, and you'll get a counter hit low. So if you get a counter hit 2k, you can go for some slightly more interesting combos like so. And having this easy auto-timed OKI allows you just to go for a lot more options that you would usually go for, but allows you to go for them a lot more easily, obviously, because it auto-times in for you. So whether you want to go for a dash-in throw to beat a blocking opponent or a DPing opponent, or you can simply go for a really meaty close slash on a very mashy opponent. Which of course, if respected, lets you go for some more mix-ups. And the fourth OKI option is actually using a real safe jump. And Sin can get a pretty easy safe jump off of this particular combo where he goes into a 2H. And instead of going for the regular combo ender where you might go for something like this, he will instead go for a close slash into a 6k. As you can see, beats DPs, and if the opponent blocks or mashes, they will get hit by the overhead, hence a safe jump. Voila! And the last option is probably the option you should be using the most, because it can be off of basically anything. Any knockdown, anything where the opponent is blasted away, which is probably pretty likely to happen because of how Sin's follow-ups work. So if they get launched away from your overhead follow-up and you don't have meter, or your beak driver, or this, and the opponent gets launched away a lot by Sin's moveset, even by his DP. And a lot of the way you're going to get OKI off of these things, if you're not like off a beak driver, if you're not going for things like a well-timed elk hunt or stuff, your most common way is going to be using your 2S, and this is something you want to practice a lot, is spacing your 2S correctly to make it a really good OKI tool, because thanks to that little disjoint it has at the end, it makes it good against basically anything. Obviously you can't be thrown from this distance, you also can't be mashed out, because what button are they going to press quickly that'll beat you out from this distance, so there's nothing they can do. It hits low, so they can't 6p you like they might with your fast slash. And because of the disjoint, it can hit from distances that a DP won't hit you. So if you ever have a knockdown and you can get in range to go for a 2S, it's basically a guaranteed option. And from a 2S, you can go into things like a whiffed first hit of 5H, or you can just go into another beak driver, or you can go into your other things. But this isn't a pressure guide. This is how you can get OKI. And using 2S off of any kind of knockdown you can get, as long as you can get there fast enough, is a really good option. So if I put Kai to go for a DP, as you can see there, I would have absolutely hit him with that, but because I wasn't even close enough to get hit by the DP, it was just a super safe option to go for, and it wasn't risky or anything, and I got a free punish on the DP, and I didn't even have to react or go for anything fancy. It just happens by default, if I don't screw up my combos. Which is really, really cool, really, really powerful, and it's just a way of you can enforce your long-ranged, really cool buttons, and you really show the opponent that, hey, this button kind of rules the match, and you got to make sure you're respecting it. So after any of these knockdowns, they can't DP because you've got this juicy button, and they just got to block it. And if you time it correctly, they can't jump it either. They obviously can't mash it out, and you can get this kind of thing off of basically any of your blowbacks, depending on how close you are to the corner and how quickly they are to go into DPs or jumps or whatever. So once your opponent is respectful, off of any knockdown, you're basically just going to be able to get a dash in 2S, and you just have to try and get there as quick as you can. See, even after a throw here, I can go for this, and it's like just pure DP, super safe OKI. And as this 6th little bonus tip, you can use these OKI tools as options off of the hard knockdowns you get after things like a dust combo or a wall break. As you can see here, you can get a Meaty elk hunt after a dust combo and after a super hard knockdown wall break. You have a few options. You've got so much time, you could run in, go for overhead, or you could walk in, go for a low here, and on the counter hit you can get a full combo, and if they blocked it you would have been plus. Or a safe option off of any of these is obviously just going for a fake run in and then going for a 2S, because then if they throw, obviously you'll get a counter hit. If they DP, it'll miss, and it's just a really, really good button for doing super, super safe OKI. And if you want to go for more risky things, that's when you go for things like a low 6k that's plus on block, or your overhead, but using your 2S, just make sure your opponent super respects you on any knockdown that you get. So, just to recap, we have close slash OTG into dash cancel close slash, and you get to go for plus on block pressure, mix-ups, beats throws, beats DPs. It's a pretty crazy shenanigan. Next, we mentioned using Elk Hunt as a way to beat people that like to go for throws on OKI, or as a really meaty follow-up after your beak drivers. Next, we mentioned these fake safe jump frame kills after your throws, which lead to super easy timed OKI where you can go for whatever you want. Then we had these actual safe jumps that, as safe jumps do, they beat DPs, beat throws, and beat mashing. And finally, we talked about why 2S is such a good OKI option, because it beats DPs, beats throws, beats any mashing, and it's basically your safest option and cheapest option, as long as you're able to time your run-ins and enforce it correctly as much as you want. And don't screw up like I just did then, and really embarrassing while I was talking about it. So, that is Sin. He is very powerful OKI if you use him correctly, and make sure you use all of these tips to improve your Sin gameplay. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.